It's funny to me. And I do admit to having an entirely different perspective on the times that we live in than a lot of you guys do. I realize that there are people from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds and wants, focuses. Just there's a whole difference between the way that I have studied this and the way that people are approaching this in these late hours. If you guys watched the video that I did about, my backstory, the starting point, the ending point, and everything in between, it was one of my most recent live streams. That you'll know that I've been at this for a long time, trying to figure out, first of all, is there a timeline so that we can narrow down the year, and then potentially what time of year, down to understanding what the actual weeks of years, how those start and everything, to just try to figure out what the timeline in the Bible is. I don't have a rapture focus. Yes, I'm a pre-tribber, but I don't have a rapture focus. That's always been extraordinarily, it's a far second place to understanding the timing of Jesus's plans for everything up to and including the second coming. I know the rapture is going to happen. I know I'm going to go, but it's not been the focus of my studies. And I know that the majority, I won't even say the majority, a lot of people who are especially new to my channel are coming from channels who are all about rapture, finding a date. That has never been my focus. It's always been specifically about the bookends of the 70th week and up to and including the second coming of Jesus Christ, which, if you guys have any familiarity with my channel at all, this should not be coming as a surprise. I have not engaged with folks who have been we only have this amount of days left. Because I believe that nothing that I have said has been, we have this amount of days left. I might have 150 days ago said something because I was looking at it and made a cool video. It was hey, if it's this year and we have this amount of time left, this is what the Strong's Concordance number was. And then I was yeah, I don't even want to go down that rabbit trail. We're not doing that. So I've actually been very careful to not leave comments up that have been well, we only have this amount of days left, because I feel that's not going to land anywhere good for folks who are legitimately hanging their last hopes on this day being correct. And while I hope that it is, it may or may not be, because there's still unknowns here. Somebody made a very good comment, and I might share it, is this is all a learning journey. And you don't know whether you're right or wrong until you get to a date and it either happens the way you think it is or it doesn't, and you need to reevaluate. That's what my entire process has been. You guys are seeing the end result of what I did years ago. When I put my timeline, my final timeline together, back in 2019, 2020, that was more than 5 years ago. I could not have in any way foreseen what we are seeing now. I was literally just saying, if this, then this is what we would expect to see if the 70 Jubilees and the time of year and all that stuff. So now people are coming into my research at this late hour, not understanding that I did this 5-6 years ago. This has been around for a long time and I haven't changed. It's been sitting out there, and now we're at the time when the timeline led us to. Okay, so now we sit and wait and we understand what is correct about it and what is not correct about it. Do we need to revise? Do we need to reevaluate? Or is it correct? Well, I don't know, because we're a few days off and we'll know then. And if we're still here on April 9th, then the starting point of that is going to be different, which is why I believe the Lord dumped in my lap the need to address this and get ahead of it, because there's people who are legitimately saying, we're going to be leaving on April 8th. And while that is hopeful, I don't know the truth of that. I'm not Jesus. So while I understand that there are a lot of people for varying reasons who want to see their family again, or are in physical distress, pain, having issues, and they don't want to be here any longer, I totally get that. I totally do. But when there is and this is true for anything, when there is an emotional investment in outcome, that is where you get disappointed. I do not do my research with emotional investment and outcome. It is literally just, here's a starting point. We use a count to get to an ending point, and this is what we think that's attached to. There's no emotion in this process for me at all. And yet people, for varying reasons, and I understand that, are approaching my logical research from an emotional standpoint, and you are going to be disappointed if it doesn't work out that way. Like, you already see that coming. I've already gotten emails. I've already gotten comments. Like, people are setting themselves up for disappointment. And when I put my video out the other day and I said, but there is asymmetric nature of the Nissan 10 and Nissan 10 during this 7-year period with the day count that's actually associated to the 70th week by 20 days. So does that mean that it won't be like the Jubilee year, if 1406, then 2025, the Jubilee year will commence on April 8th, Nissan 10 of 2025, if 1406 was correct. And by all accounts, it looks, based on everything that's going on in the world, like, yes, this is the year. Would I stake my life on that? No. Am I hopeful? Yeah, absolutely. But simply because Nissan 10 of if 1406 then 2025 is tied to the start of the 70th Jubilee year doesn't necessarily mean that that's when everything's going to happen. In the past, 5 years ago, was it easy to say that, speculate about it? Yeah. But now that we're closer, does it actually wind up bearing out? We'll see in a few days. But then you look at it like, okay, well, you're looking at a difference of 20 days and you're essentially splitting hairs between potentially April 8th and April 28th. And that's based on the second coming on Nissan 10 of a second triumphal entry. So I don't want to pull the rug out from anyone, but I'm not doing that anyway. I just honestly want to caution people against getting so emotionally attached, so invested in a specific outcome that you are disappointed, or that you are like, I got a comment yesterday. Somebody says, if the April 8th date isn't right, I'm going to never listen to anyone again because nobody knows what they're talking about. It's like, why have you invested yourself so heavily in someone else's thoughts? We've damaged ourselves by being so emotionally invested in outcome, so hopeful in specific dates. And this is part of the reason why I don't like it when people bring other people's content to my channels, especially people who talk about Isaiah 17 as being relevant, or Psalm 83 as being relevant, or signs in the heaven as being relevant, because these are all things that distract from keeping our eyes on Christ. So we're looking for these other things to occur as signs that we're close because we've attached some sort of meaning to those, and then the meaning that we attached wound up being wrong, or it just wasn't a correct thing to attach meaning to at all, or it's not relevant for our time. Like Isaiah 17 is the second coming thing. Psalm 83 is wrapping up at the second coming. Signs in the heavens we don't talk about anyway because they're relevant for the 70th week and or the second coming and not for our time. Even the Gog and Magog stuff. It's like we can identify that we are in the right time period. Like, we know that. For me, that's actually quite validating that I wasn't so far off on my research. Like, the timeline is in the Bible. That's actually quite validating for me to know that God led me on the wrong path to the right, potentially, year and the right time of year. And hopefully the right date. But if not, you got wiggle room of 20 days. Suck it up, folks. I please don't be offended when I say that, but suck it up. You're splitting hairs. 20 days in the grand scheme of thousands of years ain't that much. We can do this. We are yay close. Our faith should always be in Christ, not in what we do or do not see around us. But our faith should always, always be in Christ. Realize that everyone who is trying to do this, whether it's me or someone else, I hope is doing this with good intentions, but we only know what we know until our theories are proven true or false, and then there's a need to reevaluate. I've had one theory this whole time, and now we're at the time where we're going to learn how accurate it is and if there's any adjustment and potentially what that adjustment might need to be. But you guys have the benefit of coming into this at the late stage, not the time when I actually did this many years ago, and it was all faith-based if this is what the Bible means and we've interpreted it correctly, that's where it's going to land. And then, hey, 5-6 years later, where it actually lands there, we see, hey, yeah, actually it probably wasn't wrong. But do we know every single detail right? Do I know every single detail right? Nope. I'm hopeful, but I don't. And so we're going to find out together. Please be more logical and realistic and rational about this and less emotional about it. Jesus is going to come to get us. We don't need to lose hope. We don't need to lose faith. The things that we're seeing going on in the world should strengthen our faith and strengthen our resolve to hang in there, because we know that we are yay close, guys. We know that we are yay close. But I never claimed to have every single detail worked out, and especially when I did this years ago. I'm hopeful that I have lots of the details right, and I think that I am. But investment in outcome is what leads to disappointment. We know that Jesus is coming back for us, regardless of whether that's today or next Tuesday or the Tuesday after that or in a couple of weeks from now. We are in probably the right year, and we are definitely in the right time of year. We literally just have to wait. Patience, guys. Patience. Wait and see. But it is really an undue burden to put on people, imperfect, fallible human people, to be right about every single detail. It is our choice to listen to those people or not to listen to them, as it is my choices. I don't listen to other prophecy folks because a lot of people get it wrong, and I know that, so why bother? It's like weeding through the weeds just to get to a little bit of things that might be right that I already probably knew anyway. So my whole thing has been to learn to clarify what other people get wrong. But dudes, I'm still a fallible human, okay? In case you didn't know that, like I might be knowledgeable in some areas, but the more detailed you get, the more you leave yourself open to error. So we're almost there. I'm hoping that I'm not incorrect about the date. Regardless of whether that is the date intended for the start of the 70th week or the rapture of the church, or just to mark the start. I'm hopeful that we're going to get something on next Tuesday that's going to be like, yep, this year is our year. If 1406, then 2025. I think that evidence suggests that we are in the correct year and the correct time of year. And again, I'm just going to say patience, patience, patience. I know there are a lot of you guys who want to go for whatever reason. I totally get that. We are going to go when it is time. We just have to wait and see and be patient. Remember, tomorrow is never guaranteed. 100% of us believers in the Lord are promised to participate in it. We are never promised to be alive at the time that it happens. Live each day in the way that you need to live it, always looking toward Jesus, who is the author and finisher of your faith. The journey is going to end in a place of glorification for all of us. Just be patient.